The winter wind cut across Cole Whitford's face as he stepped out of the Langham Hotel. His shirt was wrinkled, champagne still lingered on his breath, and a bright smear of lipstick stained his collar beneath the lobby lights. He did not bother hiding it. Cole felt untouchable, a man so practiced at deception that he no longer feared being exposed. Only hours earlier, he had been inside the penthouse suite with Aubrey, convincing himself that his double life was perfectly controlled. As he walked toward the black Mercedes waiting at the curb, he typed one final message. Next weekend. Same room, tell no one. The moment it was delivered, Cole smiled. He believed he had everything: a loyal wife at home, a newborn child, and a mistress who asked no difficult questions. During the drive to the Upper West Side, he rehearsed the same excuses he had used for months. Work emergency, late meeting. You're imagining things. Hannah had always been gentle, exhausted, and newly postpartum. Cole believed that made her easy to manipulate. Whenever she questioned him, he dismissed her concerns until she apologized for doubting him. But the moment his key turned inside the front door, Cole knew something was wrong. The house was silent. There was no scent of baby powder, no lullaby playing from the nursery, and no soft light from the bassinet camera in the living room. His footsteps echoed through an emptiness that felt colder than the street outside. The sofa was gone. The shelves had been cleared. The stroller, diaper bag, and scattered baby clothes had vanished. Even their wedding photograph had been removed from the wall. "Hannah?" Cole called, his confidence beginning to crack. No one answered. Then he noticed a sealed envelope resting on the floor beneath the empty frame. Cole opened it with shaking hands, and what he read inside made him realize that his wife had not simply discovered the affair. She had planned her escape, taken their child, and left behind one final truth that could destroy everything he believed he controlled. A thin layer of dust outlined where the frame once hung. Cole's pulse kicked. He stormed into the nursery. Only 4 screw holes remained where the crib used to be. The closet was cleared out, the smell of newborn skin that had once clung to the room gone. A knot tightened at the base of his spine. "Hannah!" he shouted, voice cracking. "Hannah, where are you? Answer me." Silence pressed back. Then he noticed the final blow. The safe under their bed stood wide open, completely emptied. Cole's breath hitched. Something inside him whispered a truth he refused to accept. His wife hadn't left. She had escaped, and someone had helped her. Hannah Whitford had been awake for most of the night, though she couldn't remember when she last slept more than an hour at a time. The tiny apartment bedroom, usually dim and warm, felt colder than usual. The thermostat flickered at 62 degrees. Cole had lowered it again before leaving yesterday, muttering something about saving money, though he never once hesitated spending hundreds on expensive cocktails with Aubrey. She wrapped her newborn daughter, Lily, tighter against her chest. The baby's breathing was shallow, a soft, uneven rhythm that made Hannah's heart clench every few seconds. Born 2 weeks early, Lily still struggled with temperature regulation. Doctors had warned her to monitor closely, to keep the baby warm, to watch for signs of distress. But warnings were nothing new in Hannah's life. They'd followed her since childhood. Growing up in foster care, she had survived with little more than grit and silence. Nobody ever came to save her. Nobody ever stayed. She learned early that people who promised forever often vanished by morning. So when Cole married her, when he said, "You'll never be alone again," Hannah believed him because she wanted to. Because she had never been anyone's first choice until she thought she was his. But marriage to Cole slowly became a quiet battlefield. Every day, a new cut, invisible but deep. A small comment about her weight during pregnancy. A sigh when she cried from postpartum pain. A cold, dismissive tone whenever she asked for help. He controlled the bank cards. He checked her phone. He decided where they lived. And whenever she questioned him about the unfamiliar perfume lingering on his shirts, he laughed like she was a child who didn't understand the world. This morning, Hannah shuffled toward the kitchen, legs trembling from exhaustion. She opened the refrigerator. Only half a carton of milk and a container of cold pasta remained. Cole had promised to buy groceries. He never did. Her stomach knotted, not from hunger, but from the heaviness of reality. He didn't care if she ate. He didn't care if she slept. He didn't care that their newborn daughter needed him. She warmed a small towel in the microwave and pressed it gently around Lily's feet. "It's okay, sweetheart," she whispered, kissing the baby's forehead. "Mommy's right here." Her phone buzzed. It was a message from Cole. Not a question about the baby. Not a check-in. Not even an apology for staying out all night. Just one sentence. Don't call me today. I'm exhausted. Her breath caught. Exhausted. He didn't hear Lily's cries. He wasn't awake holding a baby who refused to settle unless pressed against her heartbeat. He wasn't bleeding, aching, or trembling from postpartum weakness. He wasn't alone. She was. A sharp pain flashed across her abdomen, remnants of the emergency stitches she'd received after delivery. She braced herself against the kitchen counter, closing her eyes until the wave passed. When she opened them, the room spun for a moment. She studied herself and noticed something strange. The mailbox key sitting on the counter. Cole always kept it in his jacket. Always. She stared at it, her pulse rising. Did he forget it last night? Or did he want her to find something? Her hands shook as she picked up the key. She didn't know that in the mailbox downstairs was the envelope that would change everything. An envelope containing the proof that Cole had been planning far more than an affair, and that she had less time than she thought. Hannah's fingers trembled as she held the mailbox key. It felt heavier than it should, as if it carried the weight of something she wasn't meant to see. Lily whimpered softly against her shoulder, her tiny fists curling into Hannah's sweater. She kissed her daughter's forehead, gathered the baby into the sling, and walked down the dim hallway toward the lobby of the apartment building. The elevator was broken again, a problem Cole had promised to deal with immediately. He never did. So she took the stairs, her legs aching, her breath thin, her stitches pulling with each step. By the time she reached the lobby, she had to lean against the mailroom door to steady herself. Inside, rows of metal mailboxes gleamed under the flickering fluorescent light. She slid the key in, turned it, and pulled the small door open. Bills, advertisements, a baby formula coupon, and one envelope, a thick, cream-colored envelope with her name handwritten in black ink. Her heart lurched. No one sent her letters. No one even knew this address except Cole's business associates and the hospital. There was no return address, no stamp. Someone had slipped it inside manually. She tore it open carefully. Inside was a single sheet of paper folded into thirds. She unfolded it slowly. At the top, Whitford Family Trust Amendment Filing Confirmation. Her breath stilled. Below it, effective immediately. Beneficiary status transferred from Hannah Whitford to Aubrey Lancaster. Her stomach dropped. Cole had removed her from his trust. Not just removed, replaced her with his mistress. Her hands shook so violently the paper rattled. She sank onto the cold tile floor, Lily pressed to her chest. Tears blurred her vision, but she forced herself to read the rest. There were signatures, Cole's, Aubrey's, and one more line. Pending secondary approval, custody transfer discussion upon financial review. Custody transfer, custody transfer. He wasn't just planning to cut her out financially, he was planning to take her baby. The walls closed in. Her ears rang. She tasted metal in her mouth. How long had he been planning this? The unexplained charges, the coldness, the nights he left without explanation, the comments about her being too emotional and unfit. It all made sense now. He didn't want a wife. He wanted a clean slate. He wanted a baby without the mother. A loud buzz startled her. Someone opened the lobby door. Mrs. Alder, the 74-year-old neighbor from across the hall, shuffled in carrying a bag of groceries. Her eyes softened when she saw Hannah on the floor. "Oh, sweetheart, what happened?" The old woman whispered, kneeling slowly beside her. Hannah tried to speak, but only a strangled sound came out. Mrs. Alder touched her hand gently. "You can't stay here, Hannah. You hear me? That man, he's not just cruel, he's dangerous." Hannah blinked. "How do you know?" The old woman hesitated, her lips tightening. "Because I saw something last week. Something you need to know." Hannah's pulse hammered. "What did you see?" Mrs. Alder swallowed hard. "My dear, it wasn't the first time he talked about taking the baby. And he wasn't talking to the mistress either." Hannah's breath froze. He was talking to a lawyer. Hannah stared at Mrs. Alder, her heart pounding so violently she felt it in her throat. "A lawyer?" she whispered, her voice cracking under the weight of disbelief. The old woman nodded slowly. "A tall man always wearing that long charcoal coat. I've seen him visit twice this month. I didn't know what it meant until now. But the way your husband talked, it wasn't the way a father talks about keeping his family together. It was the way a man talks when he's already decided he doesn't need his wife." Hannah felt her breath stutter, her knees threatening to give out again. What? What did he say?" Mrs. Alder hesitated before answering. He told the lawyer he'd handle the financial deadweight soon, and that your postpartum condition would make things, his words, darling, easier to prove. The room tilted for a second. Hannah feared she might faint. Postpartum condition. He meant her exhaustion, her anxiety, the fact she cried sometimes at 3 a.m. from the pain. Cole had twisted her vulnerability into ammunition. He said he'd make sure the house was legally his before spring. Mrs. Alder continued softly, and that the baby would adjust quickly. Adjust quickly? A baby wasn't furniture. A newborn didn't adjust. The cruelty in those words cut deeper than any argument they'd ever had. Her vision blurred. She pressed her palm against the wall to steady herself. He was doing this the whole time behind my back. Mrs. Alder squeezed her shoulder. My dear, that man never planned to love you. He planned to own you. A sharp ache rippled through Hannah's chest, a mixture of fear, shame, and dawning clarity. She had thought the worst thing Cole could do was cheat on her. She had been wrong. The worst thing he could do was steal her child. Her legs trembled as she lifted Lily closer, burying her face in the baby's soft hair. The scent grounded her long enough to breathe again. I have to get away from him. Yes, Mrs. Alder nodded firmly. You do, and fast. But where would I go? Hannah whispered. He controls everything. The bank accounts, the car, even my medical insurance. The old woman's eyes softened with something that looked like sympathy mixed with fear. You're not as alone as you think. Hannah frowned. What do you mean? Mrs. Alder looked down the hallway, checking that no one else was listening. 2 days ago, someone came looking for you. A cold chill ran through Hannah. For me? Who? A man. Not your husband. He wasn't dressed like a bill collector or a salesman. He looked concerned, desperate even. He asked if you were okay. Said you hadn't returned his message. Hannah's pulse quickened. She had no idea who that could be. She hadn't told anyone about her struggles, not even coworkers from the hospital. I didn't give him any information, Mrs. Alder said carefully. But he left a card for you. I didn't slip it under your door because I wasn't sure if it was safe. The old woman reached into her bag, pulled out a sleek black business card, and placed it gently into Hannah's palm. Grant Mercer, Mercer Medical Foundation, private line. Hannah blinked. She knew that name. He was the patient from the emergency trauma unit, the one she stayed late to help once, long before she got pregnant. A powerful man, a kind man, a man who shouldn't remember her at all. Her heartbeat thundered. Why was he looking for her? And why now? What did he know that she didn't? Hannah stared at Grant Mercer's business card as though it were burning through her palm. The memory of him resurfaced slowly the night he was rushed into the ER after collapsing at a charity event. She had been the only assistant left on shift. She held pressure to his wound with trembling hands while he faded in and out of consciousness. He thanked her afterward with a gentleness she wasn't used to. Most patients barely remembered nurses' names, but he looked straight into her eyes and said, You saved me, and now he was looking for her. Why? Before she could make sense of it, Lily whimpered. A soft, strained cry different from her usual ones. It snapped Hannah back to reality. She stood quickly and felt a stabbing pain deep in her abdomen. The stitches. She pressed her hand to her side, breathing through it. She needed to get upstairs. The baby needed warmth, clean clothes, milk. But as soon as she stepped into the stairwell, her vision blurred. A wave of dizziness hit her so hard she had to grip the railing with both hands. Spots flickered in front of her eyes. Not now. Please, not now. The climb felt endless. By the time she reached the 5th floor, she was shaking violently. She pushed her apartment door open with her shoulder, barely making it inside before her knees buckled. She sank onto the floor, holding Lily close, terrified of dropping her. Her breathing grew uneven, sharp, quick, a panic attack or something worse. Her postpartum complications had been getting worse. The nurses warned her, if you feel dizzy, faint, or disoriented, come back immediately. But she had no car, no support, no husband who cared. Cole had refused to drive her to her follow-up appointment last week, saying he had calls. Her hands trembled so badly she couldn't unclasp the baby sling. It took 3 tries before she freed Lily and laid her on the bed. The room spun again. She clutched the nightstand until her knuckles turned white. Just breathe, she whispered to herself. You have to breathe. But her body wasn't listening. Her heart raced. Her head felt like it was filling with heavy boiling liquid. She staggered to the bathroom, splashed water on her face, and watched drops fall from her chin into the sink. Her reflection stared back, pale, hollow, exhausted. Not the woman she used to be. Someone Cole had worn down piece by piece. She thought about the trust document, about Aubrey's name signed boldly where hers had been, about the custody note, about Cole calling her a burden, when to do acts, and she realized something sharp and cold. He didn't just want to replace her, he wanted her gone. Tears welled up. She gripped the sink harder. Lily cried from the bed, a fragile, shaky sound that sliced through the room. Hannah forced herself upright. She had to pull it together for her daughter, even if her own body was breaking. She stumbled back toward the bed. Then she noticed it, a small folded paper tucked under the bedroom door. Not mail, not a flyer. Something slid from the outside. Her pulse spiked. She picked it up. 2 words were written in rushed handwriting. He knows. The note slipped from Hannah's fingers and fluttered to the floor like a wounded bird. He knows. 2 words, nothing more. Yet they froze her bloodstream. She backed away until her legs hit the edge of the bed. Her breath trembled. Her mind raced with possibilities she didn't want to face. If Cole knew she had discovered the trust amendment, if he realized she knew about the custody plan, then she wasn't safe. Neither was Lily. Her hands went instinctively to the baby, pulling her close as though her body could shield the infant from everything outside those thin apartment walls. Lily stirred, but didn't cry. This time, too tired, too fragile. Hannah kissed her daughter's head, trying to draw strength from the tiny warmth pressed against her chest. She grabbed her phone with shaking hands and dialed Cole straight to voicemail. She tried again. Same result. A cold breath scraped down her spine. He always answered when she wasn't bothering him. When he didn't answer, it meant he was hiding something or doing something. Her apartment suddenly felt smaller, the shadows in the corners darker. She checked the peephole. Nothing. The hallway was empty, but she didn't feel alone. Her heart hammered as she remembered the lawyer, the trust documents, the legal maneuvering behind her back. Cole wasn't impulsive. He planned. He covered tracks. He smiled while he stabbed. Had he been watching her, monitoring her, waiting for her to slip? Another dizzy spell hit her like a wave. Her knees buckled and she fell hard to the floor, catching herself with one elbow. Pain shot up her arm. She held Lily tight, terrified of hurting her. The world tilted again. She had to sit. She had to breathe. But her body wasn't listening. She crawled to the wall and leaned against it, closing her eyes as tears slid down her cheeks. She clutched Lily to her chest, whispering, "Mommy's okay. Mommy's okay." Though she didn't believe it, a soft knock shattered the silence. Not a pounding, not an attempt to break in, just one gentle knock. Her breath hitched. She didn't move, didn't answer. Another knock, too. This time, quieter. Then a voice. Low. Calm. "Hannah, it's me, Grant Mercer." Her eyes flew open. No, impossible. How did he find her door? How did he know she lived here? She felt a jolt of fear, but mixed with something else. Relief. She stood slowly, legs trembling, cradling Lily protectively. She checked the peephole. Grant stood there alone, wearing a dark coat dusted with flurries. Snow clung to his shoulders. His expression wasn't stern or impatient. It was concerned, deeply concerned. "Hannah," he said softly from the other side of the door. "I know you're scared. I know something's happening. Let me help." She backed away from the door, panic rising again. "How did you find me?" she whispered under her breath. "Why are you here?" He seemed to sense her hesitation. "I'm not here to pressure you. I'm here because someone reached out to me. Someone who said you were in danger." Her blood iced over. Someone reached out. "Who?" "Please," Grant continued, voice steady. "Open the door. You don't have to talk. You don't have to explain. Just let me make sure you and the baby are safe. If you and 20 wonder," Hannah's heartbeat roared in her ears. The note on the floor. Cole's silence. The lawyer. The trust. The dizziness. Someone contacting Grant. Everything swirled into one terrifying truth. Someone was moving pieces faster than she could understand. She hugged Lily against her chest, stepped toward the door, and froze when she heard another sound down the hallway. Footsteps heavy, slow, coming closer. And they weren't Grant's. The footsteps grew louder, slow, deliberate, too heavy to be a neighbor returning from grocery shopping. Hannah's breath hitched as her entire body froze. She pressed Lily closer, feeling her baby's warm cheek against her collarbone. Her pulse hammered so loudly she feared whoever was outside could hear it through the walls. Grant leaned in toward the door, voice lowered urgently. "Hannah, you need to let me in now." But she couldn't move. Her feet felt glued to the floor, her fingers stiff from fear. She looked through the peephole again. The figure at the end of the hallway was still half hidden in the shadow of the stairwell. A man, broad shoulders, dark coat, not Cole, at least not his build, but not friendly either. Grant must have sensed the shift in her breathing because he repeated firmer this time. "Hannah, open the door." A floorboard creaked down the hallway. The man took one step forward. Her panic finally snapped. She unlocked the door with trembling fingers and yanked it open just enough to pull Grant inside before pushing it shut again. He caught himself, steadying her with one hand while quietly locking the door behind them. "Hannah," he said softly, scanning her pale face. "You're shaking." She didn't answer. Her eyes darted toward the door. She could still hear the footsteps, slow and deliberate. Grant's jaw tightened. "Someone followed me up." Her stomach dropped. "Followed you or followed you?" he murmured, looking around the small apartment. "You need to tell me everything right now." But Hannah could barely stand. Her legs wobbled. She lowered herself onto the edge of the bed, clutching Lily as though the baby were the last anchor, keeping her from collapsing entirely. The dizziness returned hot, disorienting, dangerous. Grant knelt in front of her. "You need medical attention. When was your last postpartum check?" "I missed it," she whispered. "Cole didn't take me. I barely walk without." She swayed. Grant caught her shoulders gently. "That settles it," he said. "You're coming with me." "No," she said quickly, shaking her head. "If Cole sees me leave, Hannah," Grant's voice dropped to a steady, grounding tone. "Cole is 10 steps ahead of you. Whatever he's planning, you can't survive it alone, and you don't have to." She looked into his eyes for the first time, not just at him, but into him, and she saw something unfamiliar, not pity, not obligation, something protective, something fierce. He stood and surveyed the room, his eyes stopping on the folded trust document on the nightstand. He picked it up, scanning the contents. His expression darkened instantly. "He removed you from the trust and replaced you with his mistress." His hand curled slightly, as though resisting the urge to crush the paper. Hannah's throat tightened. "He's planning to take Lily." Grant didn't blink. His voice dropped to a razor's edge. "Over my dead body." A sudden bang echoed through the hallway outside. Hannah's blood iced. Grant moved fast, switching off the lights and pulling the curtain shut. Darkness swallowed the room except for the faint glow of the street lamp outside. He motioned for Hannah to stay silent, then crossed to the door without making a sound, positioning himself between her and danger. Another bang. Closer this time. Someone was testing doors. "Hannah," Grant whispered without turning around. "You need to pack only what you need for one night. We're leaving within minutes." Her hands shook as she reached for Lily's blanket, her diaper bag, her medical papers. Bang. Someone tried her doorknob. Hannah's lungs stopped. Grant braced himself, muscles coiled, and then the person outside whispered her name. Grant froze the moment the whisper slipped through the crack beneath the door. "Hannah." It wasn't hostile. It wasn't loud. It was breathy, shaky, almost frightened. Hannah's nails dug into the strap of the diaper bag. Her heart thrashed against her ribs. She clutched Lily tighter, feeling the baby's soft breath against her neck. Her entire body trembled. Grant lifted a finger, signaling her to stay silent. She nodded, though fear pulsed through her like electricity. The voice came again, barely audible. "Hannah, please. It's Mrs. Alder." Grant and Hannah exchanged a quick glance. Relief washed over her, but only halfway. Why would the elderly neighbor be outside her door at this hour? And why was her voice trembling like she had run up the stairs? Grant hesitated, then leaned toward the peephole. He exhaled softly. "It's hair." He opened the door just enough for the old woman to slip inside, then locked it again. Mrs. Alder clutched her chest, gasping for breath. Her gray coat was dusted with snow, and her knitted hat was slightly crooked, as if she'd put it on in a rush. "Dear God," she whispered. "I thought I wouldn't make it in time." Hannah stepped forward, shaking. "What happened?" Mrs. Alder pointed toward the hallway with a trembling finger. "He's here." Every hair on Hannah's arm stood on end. Who? I don't know his name, the old woman whispered. But I've seen him before. He came with that lawyer. He wasn't supposed to be here tonight, but I heard him asking the landlord which unit was yours. Grant's jaw tightened. Why the hell would he be here in person? Mrs. Alder swallowed hard. Because Cole paid them. He paid them to make you sign something. Something you wouldn't willingly sign. Hannah felt her stomach drop as if the floor had given way beneath her. Sign what? She whispered. Custody? The old woman breathed. The papers are ready. No air entered Hannah's lungs. Everything inside her turned cold. Grant stepped between the women, his voice a low growl. Then we're leaving now. The old woman nodded urgently. I came to warn you. The back stairwell is open. They don't know there's a second exit. Hannah stared at the elderly neighbor, emotions swelling in her throat. Why are you helping me? Mrs. Alder's eyes softened. Because once a long time ago, I was you. The weight of those words nearly broke Hannah, but there was no time to dwell. Not with danger on the other side of the door. Grant was already moving. Hannah, take Lily. I'll carry the bag. We need to go quietly. Hannah adjusted the baby against her chest, her fingers trembling, but determined. Grant's presence beside her felt like a wall of protection. She didn't know why he cared. She didn't know how he found her. But right now, he was the only person standing between her and the nightmare waiting in the hallway. She cracked the window open. Snowflakes drifted in like pale ghosts. The fire escape ladder led down into a narrow alley behind the building. The metal was cold, the steps slick with frost. Mrs. Alder whispered urgently. Once you're on the ground, turn left. There's a service tunnel that leads to the next street over. No cameras. They won't find you. Hannah nodded, heart racing. She tightened her coat around Lily, feeling the baby's warmth against her chest. Then, a thunderous bang rattled the door. A man's voice, sharp and commanding. Open up. We need to speak with Hannah Whitford now. The lights flickered. Grant whispered, Go. Hannah stepped onto the fire escape. Another bang shook the apartment door. And then, a voice Hannah recognized, one that chilled her to her bones, roared from the hallway. Hannah, I know you're in there. Hannah's breath fogged in the freezing night air as she clutched the metal railing of the fire escape. Her hands were trembling, not just from cold, but from pure terror. Lily whimpered softly against her chest, her tiny fingers curling into Hannah's sweater. Above her, Grant leaned out of the window, whispering urgently, Go, move now. Don't look back. But she could hear what waited behind her. Cole's voice thundered through the apartment, muffled only slightly by the thin wall separating her from him. Hannah, open this damn door. The door work knob rattled violently. Grant grabbed the diaper bag and slung it over his shoulder. He climbed onto the fire escape behind her, his boots rattling the metal frame. Another bang shook the apartment door. Hannah swallowed, heart pounding so fiercely she feared she would drop the baby. She forced herself to move one step at a time down the narrow stairs. The alley below was dark, lit only by a flickering street lamp. Halfway down, the fire escape groaned beneath them, rust-old metal not built to hold two adults and a baby. Hannah froze. Grant's voice dropped. Hannah, keep going. Carefully. But it's going to break. It won't. I won't let it. She trusted him without knowing why. She reached the second platform. Grant followed, his movements controlled and silent. When they reached the last ladder, he motioned for her to descend first. I'm right behind you. Her boots touched the ground just as bam. The apartment door upstairs burst open. Cole's roar sliced through the air. Where is she? Hannah flinched. Grant slid down the ladder, landing beside her without losing balance. This way, he whispered, gripping her elbow and guiding her toward the left. The alley was narrow, enclosed by tall brick buildings. The snow was falling harder now, each flake biting into her skin like tiny knives. She had no hat, no gloves, just her thin coat, but she held Lily tight. That kept her warm enough to move. Behind them, a window slammed open. Cole's silhouette leaned out, scanning the fire escape. There, he shouted. She's there, Hannah stumbled. Grant acted instantly, pulling her sharply into the shadows behind a dumpster. Stay low, he whispered, his breath hot against her ear. Don't make a sound. Cole's boots clanged down the fire escape. Each step echoed like a countdown. Grant grabbed her hand. 3, 2, now. They sprinted. Snow splashed beneath them. The cold stabbed at Hannah's stitches, But she didn't stop. She couldn't. At the end of the alley, just as Mrs. Solder said, a service tunnel entrance stood half hidden behind a broken gate. Grant forced it open and ushered her inside. The tunnel was pitch black and smelled faintly of damp concrete. Their footsteps echoed. Hannah's breathing grew ragged. Lily whimpered, sensing the tension. "We're almost out," Grant whispered. "Just a few 100 feet." Is a devout. But then a loud metallic crash exploded behind them. Cole had found the alley. "Hannah, you can't hide." Her entire body shook. Grant whispered firmer this time. "You can walk or I can carry you. Choose." "I can walk," she whispered. Though her legs felt like water, they moved faster. The tunnel opened into another street. Quiet, empty, lined with snow-covered cars. Hannah stumbled out into the frigid air, gasping. She looked back at the tunnel, terrified Cole would burst out any second. Grant grabbed her shoulders. "Look at me. You're safe for now." But before he could say another word, headlights flared at the end of the street. A black SUV idling, waiting. Grant's entire expression changed. "That's not mine," he whispered. The SUV door opened and someone stepped out. Someone Hannah never expected to see again. "Hannah, get in the car. It's an excavation." Snow drifted across the street as the black SUV idled, its headlights slicing through the darkness like two sharp blades. Hannah froze, every nerve in her body screaming danger. Grant stepped in front of her instinctively, one arm stretched back protectively toward her and Lily. The SUV door swung open. A tall figure stepped out, bundled in a heavy coat and scarf. At first, Hannah couldn't see the face, only the way the person moved. Slowly, cautiously, hands visible, non-threatening, someone trying not to startle her. Then the streetlight caught the man's features. Her breath stilled. "Jonah," she whispered. Jonah Wilder, her former co-worker from the hospital. A paramedic who used to work the same emergency bay as her. A man who had always been calm under pressure, always ready with a steady hand and a half smile. But he had transferred to another shift months ago. They'd barely spoken since she left on maternity leave. He stepped toward her, palms raised. "Hannah, you need to come with me right now." Grant narrowed his eyes. "And you are?" Jonah quickly glanced at him. "Someone who actually knows her." Grant didn't budge. "How did you find us?" Jonah looked at Hannah, not Grant. "You didn't answer your phone for 3 days. The hospital tried to reach you about your postpartum labs. They weren't good. I was worried. I went to your apartment earlier and saw men waiting outside." Hannah blinked, stunned. "You came back for me?" He nodded once. "Because I knew something was wrong. And when I saw your husband heading into your building with 2 men who didn't look like lawyers." Hannah's stomach twisted. Jonah exhaled sharply. "I called in every favor I had to find where you might be. You weren't safe there. You're not safe anywhere near him." Grant stepped forward, tension etched into every line of his body. "If you're telling the truth, why the SUV? Why follow us?" "Because I knew Cole would chase her," Jonah said. "And I knew she wouldn't get far on foot with a newborn and stitches that haven't healed." Grant hesitated. Hannah could practically feel the 2 men measuring each other, who she could trust, who posed the bigger threat. The tunnel behind them echoed, a distant voice, one she dreaded. "Hannah." Cole, closer than before. Jonah's eyes widened. "We're out of time. Hannah, listen to me. Get in the car. I'll take you to safety, I swear." Grant stepped between them again. "She's not going anywhere with you until I know exactly what your intentions are." Jonah's jaw tightened. "My intention is to keep her alive." Hannah clutched Lily tighter, her heart racing so violently she feared she might collapse again. Her stitches throbbed, her vision blurred at the edges. If Cole reached them first, he wouldn't just take her. He would take the baby. She looked at Grant. He gave a small nod. "Your choice, Hannah. I follow wherever you go." Her throat tightened. She looked at Jonah. He extended a hand. "Please trust me. Just this once." Her mind spun. Grant was safety. Jonah was familiarity. Cole was coming. She didn't have time. She moved. Grant's eyes flicked to her. "Hannah," but it was too late. She pushed Lily into the SUV, climbed into the back seat, and pulled the door shut behind her. Jonah sprinted around to the driver's side. Grant stood outside the car, staring at her through the snow. Betrayal, shock, and something like worry in his eyes. Cole's scream echoed through the street. "Don't let her leave." Jonah slammed his foot on the gas. The SUV shot forward and Hannah realized too late that she didn't know where Jonah was taking her, or if she had just traded one danger for another. The SUV sliced through the snow-covered street, tires hissing against the ice. Hannah held Lily tightly in her arms, her breath shallow, her chest burning with anxiety. The city lights strewed memories, each one reminding her how fast everything had collapsed in a single night. Jonah drove with both hands gripping the wheel, jaw tense, eyes darting to the rearview mirror every few seconds. He wasn't calm like she remembered him. He wasn't the steady, grounded paramedic who had joked with her during long hospital shifts. He looked hunted. "Jonah," she whispered, "where are we going?" "To somewhere Cole can't find you," he said without taking his eyes off the road. "Somewhere safe." Safe. That word meant nothing to her anymore. She pressed her cheek to Lily's soft head, breathing in the powdery scent of her baby's skin, grounding herself. The infant stirred weakly, letting out a small, exhausted whimper. "Is she warm enough?" Jonah asked, glancing back briefly. Hannah nodded, though she wasn't sure. Her hands were numb with cold and fear. "Okay?" he murmured. "Just hold on a little longer." They passed through Soho, then toward the river, turning down narrower and narrower streets until even the city noise faded. Hannah's nerves prickled. "Jonah, this doesn't look like a hospital route." "It's not." Her stomach tightened. "So where?" "I didn't know who to trust," Jonah cut in. "When I realized you were missing, I tried calling your husband. He lied. He said you were asleep. Then he said you didn't want visitors. Then he said you were emotionally unstable." Jonah's grip tightened on the wheel. Something felt off. "Way off?" Hannah swallowed. "And tonight I saw his men outside your building. Not lawyers, not friendly men who aren't afraid to break doors first and ask questions later." He looked at her again. "That's why I came." Hannah's throat tightened. She didn't know whether she wanted to cry or collapse. "Thank you," she whispered. The SUV turned down a deserted industrial road near the water. Large warehouses loomed on either side. The wind howled between them, rattling loose metal panels and making the shadows dance. Hannah's heart hammered. "Jonah, why are we here?" He didn't answer right away. He pulled into an alley behind an old brick warehouse and killed the engine. The sudden silence was terrifying. He turned to face her. "Hannah, I need to be honest." Her breath froze. "I didn't come alone. Has Sperry?" A chill ran through her spine. "What does that mean?" she whispered. Jonah exhaled slowly, looking conflicted, like someone torn between loyalty and fear. "I reached out to someone who could help you. Someone with resources. Someone who knows more about Cole than either of us." Hannah stared at him, trembling. "Who?" Jonah opened his door slowly. "Stay here. I need to make sure it's clear, Jonah." But he had already stepped outside. Hannah hugged Lily protectively. The baby whimpered again. The cold seeped through the SUV windows and her breath fogged the air. Minutes crawled by. Then a shadow moved near the building. Hannah's stomach twisted. Jonah returned to the driver's side, opened the door, and another figure appeared behind him. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a dark wool coat dusted with fresh snow. Hannah's heart stopped when he stepped into the light. It wasn't Cole. It wasn't a stranger. It was the last person she expected Jonah to bring. Grant Mercer, his eyes locked on hers, haunted and intense. "Hannah, we need to talk." But before she could answer, a sharp crack echoed across the alley. A gunshot and the warehouse door behind Grant swung open. The gunshot cracked through the alley like lightning, sharp enough to slice through every thought in Hannah's head. She instinctively curled her body around Lily, shielding the baby with her arms. Her breath came fast and shallow, fogging the cold air inside the SUV. Grant threw himself sideways, pushing Jonah down behind the open car door. "Get down," he hissed. Jonah cursed under his breath and ducked, scanning the rooftop lines. "I don't see him." Another clang echoed from somewhere above the warehouse. Metal shifting, a loose pipe, or a footstep. Grant slammed the SUV door shut, his jaw tight. "Hannah, lock the doors." She fumbled with the latch until she heard it click. Her hands shook violently. Her heart hammered so hard she feared it might burst. Through the glass, she saw Grant flatten himself against the wall, motioning silently to Jonah. "You brought me to a warehouse," Hannah whispered, her voice barely audible. "Jonah, what did you get us into?" Jonah shouted back. "This wasn't supposed to happen." He said the location was secure. Grant growled. "Who the hell are you working with?" Not working with helping. He called me after the hospital flagged her labs, I thought. A second gunshot cut him off, ricocheting off the metal dumpster inches from his head. Grant yanked Jonah down. We moved together. Stay low. Inside the SUV, Lily began to cry. A tiny broken sound that pierced Hannah to the bone. Hannah's eyes stung. She rocked her gently, whispering, "It's okay, baby. Mommy's got you." But her voice trembled uncontrollably. She glanced toward the warehouse door that had swung open moments before. Darkness yawned inside it. Too quiet, too still. Someone was in there. Someone who wanted Hannah badly enough to shoot at strangers. Grant motioned toward the SUV. "Hannah, I need you to do exactly what I say." She swallowed, nodding with trembling fear. "Okay." He pointed to the far end of the alley. "There's a narrow maintenance road behind the warehouse. If we make it there, we can lose whoever is shooting." End quote. Jonah popped up just long enough to peek around the edge of the SUV. There on the roof, Grant spotted the figure too. A man in a dark coat crouched behind a rusted ventilation pipe. He couldn't see the face, but he didn't need to. Cole had hired professionals, and one of them was here. "We have to move," Grant murmured. "But Hannah can't run," Jonah said. "She's barely standing." Hannah forced herself upright, clutching Lily. "I can move. I have to." End quote. Grant touched the window, meeting Hannah's eyes. "When I open your door, stay behind me no matter what." Something in his voice, steady, deadly, serious, kept her from collapsing. He counted under his breath. 3, 2. A shadow shifted on the rooftop. 1. Grant flung open the SUV door and immediately grabbed Hannah's arm, pulling her low against the side of the vehicle. Jonah stayed, crouched beside them, scanning the roofline for movement. The alley was a maze of shadows. The shooter had vanished. Grant grabbed Hannah's hand. "Now move." They darted toward the back of the warehouse. Snow crunched beneath their feet. Hannah's stitches burned. Her lungs screamed for air. Lily cried against her chest, the sound muffled by her coat. They reached the corner of the building and suddenly a figure stepped out. Tall, heavy coat, familiar stance. Hannah's blood ran cold. The man lifted his head. It wasn't Cole, it was the lawyer, and he smiled. "Mrs. Whitford, you're coming with me." The lawyer's voice slithered through the cold air like poison. Hannah's entire body locked up, her fingers curling protectively around Lily. Grant stepped forward instinctively, shielding them with his body, while Jonah moved to flank the other side, hands clenched into fists. The lawyer smirked. He wasn't even breathing heavily, as though he'd been waiting calmly in the shadows for this exact moment. Snow dusted his coat, catching in his dark hair. His eyes, flat, shark-like, flicked from Grant to Jonah, then settled on Hannah. "Mrs. Whitford," he said smoothly, "this has gone on long enough. You're making everything much harder than it needs to be." Hannah shook her head, stepping back. "Leave us alone. I'm not signing anything." He raised a brow. "You misunderstand. This isn't a negotiation. Your husband has instructed me to retrieve you." "And the child?" Grant's jaw flexed. "She's not going anywhere with you." "Oh, Mr. Mercer," the lawyer chuckled softly. "You really think I don't know who you are, or the influence you hold? Trust me, none of it matters tonight." Grant took a deliberate step closer. "You're trespassing. You're threatening a woman and an infant, and you brought a firearm. You know what that means?" The lawyer didn't flinch. "It means I'm being efficient." Jonah cursed under his breath. "He's armed." I saw the bulge under his coat. The lawyer smirked as if amused. They'd noticed. "Relax. I don't need a gun for this. All I need is your cooperation, Hannah." His smile widened. "And trust me, if you don't come voluntarily, Cole has other methods." The baby stirred in Hannah's arms, whimpering. Hannah's stomach twisted. "You won't touch her," she whispered fiercely. "I won't let you." The lawyer took a single step forward, and Jonah lunged. It happened fast. Jonah grabbed the lawyer by the coat collar, slamming him against the warehouse wall. The impact echoed, scattering loose snow from the ledge above. "Stay away from her," Jonah growled. The lawyer didn't resist, didn't fight back, didn't even wise. He only smiled. "Mr. Wilder," he murmured, "you really should have stayed in your lane." Before Jonah could react, two figures emerged from the warehouse doorway. Large men in heavy jackets, hired muscle. The lawyer tilted his head slightly. giving them a silent command. Jonah's grip loosened. Grant moved first, shoving Jonah aside and yanking Hannah behind him. "Run," he hissed. "Take her and run." Jonah caught Hannah's arm. "Come on," but the lawyer's voice cut through the chaos. "Hannah," he called. "Did Cole ever tell you why he's so desperate to have the baby?" Hannah froze mid-step. Grant grabbed her wrist, trying to pull her away. "Hannah, ignore him." But the lawyer continued, his words slicing through the storm. "Your daughter isn't just his child." The world stopped. Hannah felt her knees buckle. Grant swore under his breath. "He's lying." "Hannah, don't listen." The lawyer stepped forward, eyes gleaming. "Cole had a paternity test done. Without your knowledge." Her vision blurred. "What? What are you talking about?" Jonah whispered, horrified. "He's manipulating you. Don't fall for it." But the lawyer smiled. Slow, deliberate, cruel. Cole knows Hannah Taus, knows what the lawyer closed the distance between them, lowering his voice. He knows the baby isn't biologically his. Hannah gasped, nearly dropping Lily. Grant's expression cracked with shock. Jonah turned ghost pale. Hannah shook her head violently, panic crashing over her. "That's impossible. He's lying." The lawyer held up a folded document, a lab report with her name on it. Her heart stopped. "Cole knows," he repeated softly. "And now, so do you. And ask yourself, Hannah, who fathered your child." For a split second, Hannah forgot how to breathe. The cold night air pressed against her chest, sharp and heavy. Lily whimpered weakly. But Hannah barely heard it. Her mind was spiraling too fast, too violently. The baby isn't biologically his. Impossible. Impossible. She had never cheated. Not once. Not even in thought. She had built her entire world around Cole, blind to the cracks, blind to the cruelty, blind to everything except the hope that maybe, just maybe, he could love her back. Grant stepped between her and the lawyer, voice low and controlled. "You're lying. There's no paternity test." The lawyer's lips curled. "Really? Mr. Mercer? Should we show her the documents?" "They're right here." He lifted the folded paper, waving it lightly. Jonah stepped forward, shaking with anger. "That's fake. I've seen him pull this tactic on domestic cases. They falsify documents to scare the mother into surrendering custody." The lawyer gave a soft chuckle. "That might be true if Cole didn't have the resources for proper testing, but you'd be surprised how many strings wealthy men can pull." Grant shot Jonah a warning glance. "We need to move. He's stalling." But the lawyer wasn't finished. "Hannah," he said, voice syrupy and poisonous. "Didn't your doctor mention inconsistent markers in Lily's newborn genetic screening?" Hannah's throat closed. That had happened. She remembered the lab technician hesitating, the nurse whispering that the test picked up minor irregularities, but they said it was probably a machine error, nothing concerning, and then Cole had insisted he would handle everything. Handle. Her stomach churned. Could he have manipulated the results? Or worse, could he be telling the truth? Her legs weakened. The snow beneath her boots blurred. Jonah grabbed her elbow. "Don't listen to him. Hannah, look at me. Look at me." But her vision was swimming. The lawyer leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Ask yourself, Hannah. You were working brutal double shifts at the ER before maternity leave. You were exhausted, overwhelmed." He paused, letting the silence work like a blade. "Do you remember every night as clearly as you think you do?" Hannah stumbled back as if struck. Grant moved forward so fast, the lawyer flinched. "Back off now." The two hired men behind the lawyer inched closer. "We don't want trouble," the lawyer said calmly. "We just want what Cole is legally entitled to." "Your version of legal is twisted," Grant growled. "You've been lying to her for months," the lawyer smirked. "If that were true, why would Cole want custody of a child that isn't his?" That question hit harder than the first. Hannah had no answer. Jonah hissed. "Because Cole wants control. He doesn't care whose baby she is. He just wants leverage." Grant nodded slowly. "Exactly. This isn't about biology. It's about power." But the seed of doubt had been planted deep, painful, poisonous. The lawyer saw it. He smiled wider. "Hannah," he murmured, "we can end all of this quietly. Come with us. Sign the custody transfer. Cole will take care of the child. You won't have to worry anymore." Her breath caught. "I would never abandon her." The lawyer shrugged. "Then don't think of it as abandonment. Think of it as survival. Snow fell harder now, blurring the edges of everything. Sound, breath, thought. Grant took Hannah's face gently in his hands, forcing her to meet his eyes. Don't listen to him. Her pulse stuttered. Then a voice echoed from the far end of the alley. Cold. Familiar. Cole. There she is. Hannah spun. He stepped into the light, eyes blazing with fury and triumph. Hannah, bring me the baby. Cole's shadow stretched across the snow like a dark stain as he approached. Each step slow and deliberate, his coat whipped in the icy wind, his breath fogging the air in sharp bursts. There was no panic on his face, no urgency, just cold certainty because he believed he'd already won. Hannah, Cole said smoothly, hand me the baby. Her legs locked, every instinct screamed to run, but her body refused to move. Lily squirmed in her arms, sensing the fear radiating from her mother. Grant positioned himself between Hannah and Cole, shoulders squared, Jonah mirroring him on the other side. The lawyer and the two henchmen closed in behind Cole like a wall. Hannah was trapped. Cole smirked. You can't outrun me. Not tonight. Not ever. His voice was calm. Too calm. That was what terrified her most. She knew this version of Cole, the one who didn't yell, didn't lose control, the one who planned, the one who destroyed with precision. You were never fit to raise a child, Cole continued. You can't even care for yourself. His gaze flicked to her trembling hands. Look at you. Weak. Pathetic. Grant took a step forward. Say another word to her like that and I swear. Cole raised a finger. Mr. Mercer, let's not pretend you're a hero. You think I don't know why you're here? You think I don't know the role you've played in all of this? Grant stiffened but kept silent. Hannah's mind flashed through the last chaotic hours. The ambush, the paternity lie, the shooter, the warehouse. None of it felt random. None of it felt accidental. Cole went on, his voice dripping venom. You think she came to you by coincidence? You think she didn't know exactly what she was doing when she flirted with a billionaire in the ER? Hannah's jaw dropped. Flirted? Are you insane? Cole laughed darkly. Oh, sweetheart. Manipulation is the only thing you're good at. Jonah couldn't hold back. She saved his life. You sick bastard. Cole's eyes flashed. Stay out of this. Paramedic, you've already overstepped. Jonah clenched his fists. She deserves better than you. I didn't. And what? Cole sneered. She deserves you or him? He jerked his head toward Grant. You think I don't see what's happening? She's been shopping for a new provider since before the baby was born. Hannah's blood boiled. You're projecting. You're the one who cheated. You're the one who lied. You're the one trying to steal my daughter. Cole's face twisted because she's not your daughter to keep. There it was again. The paternity claim. The poisonous lie. Hannah swallowed hard. You didn't even want a baby. I want what's mine. Cole growled. She isn't yours. Cole's eyes went cold. That's the point, Hannah. A beat of silence fell over the alley. Grant suddenly stiffened beside her. Jonah's breath caught. Cole stepped closer. You never questioned it, did you? He murmured. You never wondered why your timelines didn't add up, why the genetics flagged abnormalities, why the test was ordered. Hannah shook her head violently. You're lying. You're trying to break me. Cole smiled. A slow, chilling curve of his lips. Hannah, I know who the father is. Her heart stopped. No, 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 Jonah whispered. Don't listen. He's manipulating you. But Cole's eyes burned into hers. Look at him, he said softly. Look at the man standing beside you. Look at Grant Mercer. Hannah's breath hitched. What are you talking about? Cole took one more step forward, voice slicing through the cold. Ask him why he's been watching you since the hospital. For a moment, the world went silent. So silent that Hannah could hear the faint crackle of snow settling on the metal dumpsters. Grant didn't move, not an inch. His jaw clenched, his breath visible in short, controlled bursts. Jonah shifted uneasily beside her, glancing between Grant and Cole, like he was watching a fuse burn toward an explosion. Hannah felt the cold bite through her coat, her arms tightening instinctively around Lily. Grant, she whispered, her voice trembling. What is he talking about? Grant didn't answer right away. Cole's smile widened, triumphant and cruel. Oh, he didn't tell you. That's interesting because he's been keeping tabs on you for a long time. Since before you got pregnant? Since before you even realized you needed help? Hannah took a shaky step backward. Grant, please tell me he's lying. Grant's eyes flicked to hers, full of conflict, pain, something haunted. Hannah, it's not what he's making it sound like. Oh, isn't it? Cole taunted. He folded his arms, savoring every second. You think a billionaire just checks in on some nurse he met once in the ER? You think he just randomly shows up tonight at the exact place you're hiding? Jonah hissed under his breath. He's twisting everything, but Hannah's heartbeat was too loud in her ears. She looked at Grant again. Why were you watching me? Grant stepped forward, voice low, steady. I wasn't watching you. I was trying to protect you. Cole burst out laughing. Protect her from what? Her own husband. Please, if that were true, you would have stepped in months ago. But no, that's not why you kept tabs on her. Grant's jaw tightened. Enough, Cole. Then tell her, Cole snapped. Tell her why the genetic markers didn't match. Tell her why your foundation ran her newborn blood panel. Tell her why you were the one who ordered the second test. Hannah's vision blurred. You what? Grant lifted both hands slightly as though approaching a frightened animal. Hannah, listen to me. The hospital flagged Lily's results. They sent them to independent labs because of inconsistencies. My foundation handles neonatal screenings. We fund them. I saw your name. I recognized it. That's all. That's all, Cole barked. You expect her to believe that? Grant looked directly at her. I never touched the results. I never altered anything. I just wanted to make sure you were okay. Hannah felt dizzy. Why? Why me? Grant's eyes softened with something neither Jonah nor Cole had ever shown her in their lives. Because the night you saved my life, he said quietly. You didn't know who I was. You didn't care. You stayed with me when every other staff member had gone home. I never forgot that. I reached out months later, but Cole intercepted the message. Cole smirked. Of course I did. So I waited, Grant continued. I waited until I knew you needed help. When Jonah called tonight, I came because his voice faltered. Because I couldn't let anything happen to you or the baby. Cole stepped forward, eyes burning. Then tell her the part you're skipping. Grant's expression darkened. Don't. But Cole didn't hesitate. Tell her the real reason, Cole snarled. Tell her why the paternity test came back with anomalies. Hannah's throat tightened. Tell me what? Cole's gaze turned sharp, vicious. Because Hannah, he said. The father isn't me and it isn't Grant. Hannah's knees buckled. Jonah's face went pale. Grant whispered, Cole, stop. Don't do this. Cole leaned in close, eyes glinting with hatred. You want the truth? He hissed. You were drugged the night Lily was conceived. The world spun. Hannah staggered backward, choking on her own breath. Jonah grabbed her arm. Hannah, stay with me. But Cole wasn't done. And the man who drugged you, he whispered, voice dripping venom, is standing right here. Hannah didn't hear the wind, didn't feel the snow, didn't sense Lily's soft breath against her collarbone. All she heard echoing monstrous. Impossible were Cole's words. You were drugged the night Lily was conceived, and the man who drugged you is standing right here. Jonah's hand slipped from her arm. Grant's face drained of color. The lawyer smirked like a man watching a house burn from the outside. Hannah looked at Jonah, then at Grant, then at Cole. Her voice cracked. Which one of you is he talking about? Cole didn't answer. He simply watched the chaos unravel, feeding on it like oxygen. Jonah stepped forward, palms raised. Hannah, I swear on my life I would never hurt you. Never. Grant moved beside him, voice low and steady. Neither would I. But Cole only laughed, the sound hollow and venomous. Of course you'd both deny it. That's what men do when they're caught. Hannah's legs wobbled. Her vision swam. Cole, stop playing games. Tell me who did it. He tilted his head, savoring the power he held. Why should I? You didn't believe me when I told you the baby wasn't mine. Because you're a liar, she screamed. Am I? Cole snapped back. Or are you scared the truth will break you even more than the lies did? Snow fell harder now, swirling like chaos around them. Grant's eyes flickered with something she had never seen in him before. Fear. Jonah ran a shaking hand through his hair, muttering curses under his breath. Hannah's voice trembled. Cole, if you don't tell me. Oh, I'll tell you, he said, stepping closer, his breath fogging in the cold. But first, ask yourself this. Why did Jonah suddenly switch shifts around the time you got pregnant? Why did Grant show up at the hospital the night you conceived? Why did neither of them contact you afterward? Jonah spat. You're twisting coincidences into crimes. Grant growled. Don't drag us into your delusions. But Hannah felt her stomach twist violently. The dizziness returned stronger, sharper. Her mind raced through memories she'd buried. The night she fainted in the ER staff lockers, the half glass of champagne at the charity mixer Cole forced her to attend, the strange metallic taste in her mouth afterward, waking up in their bed, disoriented. Cole asleep beside her, clothes still on. Oh God. Cole stepped closer, eyes gleaming. Still think I'm lying? Grant lunged at him, but the two henchmen blocked him, pushing him back. Cole chuckled. Fine, I'll make it easy, Dick. He pointed straight at Jonah. The alley went silent. Hannah's breath shattered. Jonah stumbled back as if struck. No, Hannah. He's lying. Cole didn't flinch. The paternity results flagged a match. Partial paternal DNA. Jonah's voice cracked. Those can be manipulated. He set me up. Hannah staggered backward, the snow spinning around her. Jonah, tell me the truth. Jonah reached for her, not touching but desperate. I would never drug you. I never touched you. Hannah, look at me. I cared about you. I still do. Cole smirked. Oh, he cared enough to be in your building the night you conceived. Enough to sneak into your floor. Enough to stop. Hannah screamed, clutching her head with one hand, Lily with the other. Her knees buckled. Grant caught her before she hit the ground, his arms wrapping around her protectively. Hannah, breathe, he whispered. Don't listen to him, please. If you want attention. But her world was spinning memories, lies, fragments of nights she tried to forget, and Cole's voice sliced through it all. If you want to know the truth, he said coldly, ask Jonah where he was between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m. that night. Jonah froze. Hannah looked up, eyes filling with horror. Jonah, she whispered. Where were you? Jonah opened his mouth. But before he could answer, a spotlight swept across the alley and police sirens wailed into the night. Red and blue lights splashed across the snow-covered alley as sirens wailed closer, bouncing off the warehouse walls in chaotic echoes. For a moment, everyone froze. Grant gripping Hannah, Jonah backing away with trembling hands. Cole turning his head sharply toward the flashing lights. The lawyer swore under his breath. This wasn't part of the plan. Cole's eyes narrowed. Who called them? Jonah shook his head. Not me, Grant exhaled slowly. I did. Donita. Hannah looked up at him, breath-catching. When he kept an arm around her, shielding her from the wind while Jonah was driving you here. I used the car's emergency signal beacon. Cole's face twisted with rage. You son of a... But the sirens grew louder, drowning him out. The two henchmen shifted nervously, glancing at the mouth of the alley where the headlights approached. Cole, the lawyer hissed. We need to leave now. Cole didn't move. His stare was pinned on Hannah, dark, furious, deranged. No, not without the baby. Hannah pressed Lily closer, fear clawing up her throat. Grant stepped forward, blocking Cole's path completely. You're not taking her. Cole's lips curled into something between a smile and a snarl. You think cops will help her? She's unstable. Her medical records prove it. Hannah's blood ran cold. Grant's voice dropped dangerously. Those records were altered. I know. The lawyer stiffened. Jonah's head snapped toward Grant. What do you mean, you know? Grant didn't take his eyes off Cole. Your husband paid someone inside the hospital to change Hannah's chart to make her look unfit. It's why she was denied postpartum follow-up. Why her lab results didn't go through. It was all him. Cole didn't deny it. He only smiled. And that smile told Hannah everything. He really had planned to ruin her, to take her child, to erase her entirely. Her knees weakened. She might have collapsed if Grant wasn't holding her. Why? She whispered, voice cracking. Why would you do this to me? Cole turned fully toward her, face illuminated by the swirling police lights. Because I can. The cruelty in those words hollowed Hannah out. Before anyone could respond, 2 police cruisers screeched to a halt at the alley entrance. Officers stepped out, hands on their flashlights and holsters. Hands where we can see them, an officer shouted. The henchmen lifted their hands immediately. The lawyer hesitated, then did the same. Cole slowly raised his arms, though his eyes were still locked on Hannah, burning with fate. Later facers approached cautiously. Grant lowered his hands too, signaling compliance. Jonah followed. One officer scanned the group. We received reports of shots fired. Grant pointed toward the warehouse roof. Shooter, we don't know his identity. The officers exchanged glances and radioed the information. Another officer approached Hannah. Ma'am, are you hurt? She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Grant answered for her. She's postpartum injured and being threatened. Cole barked. She's mentally unstable. She kidnapped my daughter. Hannah felt the world tilt. Grant snapped. She didn't kidnap anyone. She left because you were endangering her and the child. The officers looked between them, trying to piece the scene together. That's when the lawyer made his move. He stepped forward, shouting loudly, Officers, this woman is in possession of a child that does not belong to her biologically. Every officer turned. Hannah's heart dropped like a stone. Grant cursed. Jonah whispered, Don't say another word. Cole raised his voice over them all. That baby, he said, pointing directly at Lily, belongs to someone else. Silence. Then an officer asked the question that sucked the air out of Hannah's lungs. Ma'am, do you have proof the child is yours? Her breath shattered, her arms tightened around Lily. Her vision blurred. Cole smirked, and Hannah understood with sickening clarity. If she didn't speak now, she could lose her baby forever. The officer's question sliced straight through Hannah. Ma'am, do you have proof the child is yours? Her breath caught, her vision pulsed. Lily whimpered softly against her chest, unaware that her entire future hung on one impossible question. Proof in the middle of a freezing alley while bleeding from her stitches, while her husband lied, while a lawyer fabricated documents. How could she possibly produce proof? Cole saw her hesitation and stepped forward, voice suddenly calm, almost gentle. It's okay, officers. She's been struggling emotionally since giving birth. I've tried to get her help, but she keeps running. He placed a hand over his heart. I'm just trying to bring my baby home. Jonah snapped. He's lying. She's the mother. But the officers held up a hand, signaling him to stay silent. Grant stepped forward slowly, addressing the police with measured control. Her medical records, birth certificate, and ID were in the diaper bag. I have it here. Hannah's heart lurched. She had completely forgotten. She had packed the papers before climbing onto the fire escape. Grant knelt beside the bag, unzipped it. Empty. The folder was gone. Hannah's stomach dropped so violently she nearly fell. No, it was in there. I swear. Looking for this? The lawyer asked. He held up the manila folder, waving it lightly. Hannah's blood ran cold. He must have taken it when they were ambushed, when Grant pulled her away, when the gunshot rang out. The lawyer stepped forward calmly. Officers, these documents appear incomplete. No signatures, no seal. As Cole's legal representative, I recommend you place the child under temporary protective custody until we verify maternity. Hannah's scream ripped from her throat before she realized she was making any sound. No, you can't take her. Lily began to cry. Small, broken, terrified sounds. Hannah clutched her tighter, as if sheer strength could anchor her daughter in her arms. Grant stepped in front of Hannah, fury blazing across his face. If you lay a hand on her or that baby, you'll be answering to more than the department. I'll take this to federal court. The officers hesitated. Grant Mercer's name carried weight. Real weight, Jonah added, voice shaking but loud. Cole's lying. The hospital flagged fraudulent changes in her medical records. Records he tampered with. Check with New York Presbyterian. Call them. Cole scoffed. Oh, please, he'll say anything to cover how obsessed he is with her. These it, Jonah lunged toward him, but an officer stepped between them. Then a new voice cut through everything. Officers, the mother is telling the truth. Everyone turned. Mrs. Alder's snow-soaked coat, trembling hands, but eyes sharp as glass stood at the mouth of the alley. She must have followed them. She must have run all this way. Hannah gasped. Mrs. Alder. The elderly woman stepped forward, pointing directly at Cole. I saw him. I saw everything. He threatened her. He fabricated paperwork. He tried to force custody. I heard him plotting to get rid of her. He said she was in the way. Cole's face drained of color. The lawyer stepped forward. Ma'am, with all due respect. Oh, shut your mouth, she snapped. I recorded him. Silence detonated across the alley. Recorded. She lifted her phone, old, cracked, but glowing with a video screen. I've been his neighbor for 3 years, and I've heard enough to know this young mother and her baby are in danger. The officer nearest Cole stiffened. Sir, I'm going to need you to step back. Cole's voice cracked. That recording is illegal. It's admissible in domestic abuse cases, Mrs. Alder said coldly. And you know it. Hannah burst into tears. Grant steadied her. Jonah let out a breath like he hadn't breathed in minutes. The officers exchanged looks and reached for Cole. "You're detaining me?" he shouted, panic flaring. The officer replied sternly. "Sir, turn around and place your hands behind your back," Cole roared. "You can't do this." But they did. Click. Handcuffs. Hannah exhaled a breath she'd been holding for months. But as the officers led Cole away, the lawyer smirked quietly and whispered, "This isn't over." The world did not end in an alley or in a warehouse or under the shadow of the man who tried to erase her. It ended and began again in a courtroom. 3 weeks later, snow lined the windows of the Manhattan family court, melting into clear streaks beneath the radiators. Hannah sat at the plaintiff's table, Lily asleep in her arms, tiny fingers curled around her sweater like she was holding on to her entire universe. Across the aisle, Cole sat in handcuffs, flanked by 2 officers. His eyes were full of venom, but the arrogance was gone, the entitlement gone, the certainty gone. He looked smaller than she had ever seen him. The judge reread the charges: tampering with medical records, fraudulent custody attempt, conspiracy to abduct a minor, domestic coercion, attempted assault. Each word felt like a stone lifted off Hannah's chest. The courtroom listened to Mrs. Alder's recordings, Cole mocking Hannah's mental state, Cole bragging about changing her charts, Cole laughing about taking the baby once the paperwork was final. His voice, so confident, so cruel, echoed through the room like a ghost finally being dragged into the light. The lawyer tried to object, to undermine, to twist, but the judge shut him down with a glare sharp enough to cut glass. Grant testified next, steady and composed. He explained the neonatal lab irregularities. He explained the hospital alerts. He explained why he'd watched out for Hannah, not as a predator, but as a man who had once been saved by her compassion and refused to let her drown alone. For the first time in her life, someone stood up for her without hesitation. Jonah testified too, admitting his desperation to help, his fear, the mistakes he made by involving the wrong people. He wasn't perfect, but he was honest, and honesty mattered. Then the judge looked at Hannah. "Mrs. Whitford, do you have anything you'd like to say regarding custody?" Her throat tightened. She looked down at Lily, sleeping peacefully. This child had fought to survive. And so had she. She stood. "Your Honor," she said, voice trembling, but strong. "Lee is my daughter, not because of biology, not because of a test, but because I carried her, protected her, and loved her with everything I had, even when I had nothing left. I'm not the woman my husband tried to make me. I'm not weak. I'm not unstable. I am a mother, and all I want is the chance to raise my child in a home where she will never fear the people meant to love her." Silence spilled across the room. The judge nodded once firmly. "Mrs. Whitford, you are granted full and permanent custody." Hannah's knees nearly buckled. She clutched Lily, tears spilling freely. "Mr. Whitford," the judge continued, turning to Cole, "you will have no parental rights and you will remain in custody pending criminal trial." "Thanks for watching," Cole exploded. "You can't do this. She ruined me." "No," the judge said sharply. "You ruined yourself." The gavel struck. It was over. Outside the courthouse, the winter storm had finally passed. Pale golden sunlight spread across Manhattan as Hannah stepped onto the courthouse stairs with Lily held securely against her chest. Grant came to stand beside her. "What happens next is entirely your choice." Hannah looked at him, then at Jonah waiting nearby, and finally at the city stretching before her. For so long, her future had been controlled by betrayal, fear, and the decisions of people who believed she would never fight back. Now it was open again. She tightened her arms around Lily and took a slow breath. "We live, we heal, and we begin again." Grant's expression softened. "If you'll allow me, I'd like to be part of that beginning." Hannah remained silent for a moment. Then she met his eyes, calm and certain. "You already are." Together, they walked down the courthouse steps. Hannah was no longer the exhausted mother Cole had manipulated into doubting herself. She was a woman who had protected her child, exposed the truth, and reclaimed the life that had nearly been taken from her. She could not undo the betrayal or erase the pain, but she had learned that healing did not require forgetting. It required choosing herself after others had repeatedly chosen to hurt her. As the sunlight warmed Lily's face, Hannah finally understood that every door Cole had tried to close had led her toward freedom. Her life was no longer built around survival. It was hers to live.